Before the election, most of us had never heard of him. Now he is everywhere. On the internet, on the telly, in the papers. It's Nick Clegg, Nick Clegg, Nick Clegg. So, is he just the new bloke who looks good on TV, or is he the real thing? Let's meet him and try and find out. Nick Clegg, welcome.
Yes. Good to see you.
Very nice to meet you. OK. The opening question that I'm starting with all the party leaders is, I mean, the reason why we're doing this for BBC Three is that we've got a largely apathetic young electorate in a hugely important election. 56% of 17 to 25s aren't even registered to vote, which I'm sure you know. This is turning into an election about character. So what is it about your character which means that young people can vote for you in the millions?
Gosh, is it really just all about character?
It's as much about character as it is about anything
sure,
else.
and that's fair enough, isn't it? I mean, it's about policies, but it's also about what who the leaders are, and what their judgments and values are.
Sure.
I hope. It's very difficult to talk about yourself without knowing exactly how people see you, but I hope, even if people disagree with me or don't agree with the kind of positions I take, I hope at least people will believe that I mean what I say, and that I've tried to think it through, and that I'm authentic about the kind of things that I talk about and the kind of issues that I try and pursue. I think that's certainly something that I've always tried to do. I've always tried to be quite straight, even if I know I'm saying something which I know a lot of people won't agree with, to say, look, these are the reasons why, and I'm going to stick with it.
Nick Clegg is the leader of the Liberal Democrats.
We do not have to live in a country where children's chances are determined more by their parents' background than by their own hopes and dreams. There is a better way.
Like David Cameron, he's from a well-off background. He went to Westminster, one of the country's top private schools, and then to Cambridge. He's a man of the world, his mum's from Holland, and his Spanish wife's a lawyer. In his 20s, he went to work for an ex-Tory in Europe. He became an MP 5 years ago and was made leader in 2007.
And I therefore declare that Nick Clegg is elected leader of the Liberal Democrats.
But he only won by the skin of his teeth. Even after his victory, he's often seen eclipsed by Vince Cable, his shadow chancellor. And until last week's leaders' debate, not many people seemed to know who he was.
Brown, Cameron and the other one.
I actually have absolutely no idea who Nick Clegg is.
I kind of know who Nick...
You could show me a picture of three people I know, I would not be able to point out who Nick Clegg is.
I'll be straight. I only know about David Cameron.
And in that lineup could also be SpongeBob SquarePants and Homer Simpson. I'd still be going, in fact, no, those are two much more recognisable.
I kind of know who Nick Clegg is. I saw an article in the paper and he was just slagging everyone else off, so that's the only reason I know who he is.
I don't know too much about Nick Clegg because it's mainly the main two, Labour and Conservatives, that you hear about in the news.
Is that Liberal Democrats?
Or
something else?
Neither do I just learned something from
I don't know, BNP, there we go. I so didn't say that.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely terrible.
I'm joking, obviously.
The next day, he was suddenly Mr. Popular.
I'm going to bring Nick Clegg in now and we'll continue.
Well,
Mr. Clegg.
I think this is partly what's been going wrong for so long. We've had both major parties running governments over the last 20 years talking tough about immigration and delivering complete chaos.
Well, our police officers should be crime fighters, not form thinners, and that's what needs to change.
I'm just slightly surprised that there's any discussion between you two going on about what money you can put into public services. Because I read your manifestos this week. In neither of them are you coming clean with people about how anything costs, because you haven't got any figures in your manifestos.
The media went into Nick Clegg frenzy. Even his opponents wanted to be his friend.
See, I agree with Nick. I agree with Nick. I agree with Nick.
Of course, I agree with that.
And young people seemed to be getting the message.
I became a fan of Liberal Democrats on Facebook, and they keep you updated on what they're doing. And I think that, as far as reaching someone of my age, is a lot better than you expecting me to pick up The Guardian every day, because I'm not going to do that.
I think Nick Clegg's chances are quite slim at this election. I think the Lib Dems made the wrong choice of leader because he doesn't seem very inspirational.
There is an alternative, and I think the Liberal Democrats have probably got the alternative, especially for someone my age, because I think out of all the parties, they're addressing issues that affect me the most.
Oh, I've heard a lot about him in the news, and everything he comes across with, I sort of relate to in my sort of personal way.
He repeat himself a hell of a lot, right? He does seem to repeat himself.
Well, let's talk about you for a bit, because the first debate just went incredibly well for you. And I know, I saw you interviewed afterwards, and you were talking like a football manager, saying, keep your feet on the ground every one game at a time. But, I agree with Nick. It's become a national saying. 2 words I never thought that I'd say, Clegg mania, have come out, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, are you worried you peaked too early?
Well, look, it's obvious, isn't it? It's what goes up and go down, and you can get a lot of hype around these things. So, you've got to keep a sense of perspective. The bit that I'm excited about is this, that I think that maybe there's just an opening now where people are starting to think, and a growing number of people are starting to think, well, hang on, maybe this time we can do something differently. Maybe we can hope, we can believe that we don't need to just do the same old politics. That it's not just the blue team and the red team taking it in turns to govern, and that's really important at this very early stage in the campaign. Now, the campaign's still got 2.5 weeks to go. It was slightly sleepy for the first week. If that debate has managed to engage people, has managed people to get stuck in, I've certainly been meeting a lot of young people who are now registering after the debate. If it means that people feel there are more possibilities than they previously thought, all of that has got to be a good thing. Because the acid test for these debates at the end of the day really is going to be whether it inspires or angers or motivates more people to vote than would have been the case otherwise.
Are you surprised it went so well? Was there a feeling while you were on the podium that, God, this is going quite well tonight?
No, it doesn't work. It didn't work like that for me at all. No, I didn't feel like that at all. I just sort of answered the questions, really. It's not rocket science. I just try to answer the questions.
He hasn't got it right all of the time. He was interviewed for a spread in GQ magazine by Piers Morgan and, as a result, earned himself some notoriety and an unwelcome new nickname. A lot of people know who you are. I mean, now that Piers Morgan moment about the 30 lovers is going to be nothing compared to what the tabloids are going to be after you for now. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, if you want to get anything off your chest. No love children?
No.
No inhaling? No Nick Clegg ate my hamster?
No.
OK. And we all know, like, tragedy for you is the biggest loser in all of this is poor Vince Cable, who was
no, he's not,
who was the saint, and now it's all about you.
He is still Saint Vince. He is still Saint Vince.
The 2010 elections could see millions of young people voting for the first time.
Politicians, they were once first-time voters themselves, weren't they? So on the one hand, they can look at it from that perspective, but I think times are changing and they're not 18 when I was 18, put it that way. So I think politicians now, they don't understand what it's like to be a first-time voter now. So I think, again, they've got to go and do their homework, really, and find out, maybe come and ask me.
OK, listen, just to give people at home who are first-time voters this election round sort of a taste of where you come from. What about you? You were a first-time voter in 87. What inspired you to vote? Presumably you voted Liberal in 87.
Yeah, I've always voted. I'm just trying to think.
You have always voted Liberal.
I've always voted Liberal, absolutely.
What was it in 87 that inspired you?
I was about to say, you've got to remember, I was at university then, and it was very much the height of the sort of Thatcher revolution. And I don't remember that much about my student days, but I do remember, like a lot of people in my generation, I'm 43, that this whole vision that Thatcher had at the time, the Conservative Party had at the time, of, there's no such thing as society, it was dog eat dog, it was very bleak, very, very bleak. And just at a time when you're, in a sense, being most idealistic, and most kind of dreamy about your future and about the way things should be rather than the way things are, there was this very bleak message, this drumbeat of it's just about, making money, it's dog eat dog, it's the strong over the weak, there's no such thing as society, it's just the individual. I found that very off-putting indeed. I also found this whole stuff about, let's put up the drawbridge, turn our back on the outside world, that didn't appeal to me at all. So I was very naturally drawn to
Can you see
the Lib Dems.
Why people over the last few elections, and even with this one, they don't really believe what they hear.
Yeah, of course I understand that. I think it's got a lot worse, hasn't it, after the expenses scandal?
Do I trust politicians? Do I trust politicians? Do I trust politicians?
And I think the way that a lot of the time they will dodge questions and they won't necessarily answer a question head on, which annoys me, because if you've been asked a question, you should then again I'm waffling, you should probably answer it correctly and let us know, trust. It's all about trust, isn't it?
I think a number of things have happened. We just keep making it a lot worse. I think the whole Blair phenomenon has actually left a huge amount of cynicism in its wake, because there was so much spin and constant repeat announcement of figures, and everyone became so bored and weary of it by the end. And then we've had the expenses scandals, which quite rightly have infuriated people, and the recession. I think the recession has hit people so hard, and I meet a lot of people who they've got no time anymore for politicians' promises. They just want to know